I don't know how, but we made it. With the Eagles preseason opener only one day away, rookie Nolan Smith has one guarantee that every Philly fan will see. Plus, which players need to make moves, and is Derek Barnett in danger of being cut? The depth chart was released with a couple surprising developments, so let's break it down. But first, let's run it. Hey guys, okay, so the first preseason game's right around the corner, with head coach Nick Sirianni being super non-committal about whether Jalen or the starters will play, saying we're still figuring it out, I don't have to make a decision quite yet on playing time, but we'll see, we talked through everything and we're still talking through it. Come on, Nick, some of us might need to know in case we're putting a little money down on the preseason action. Alright, that's ridiculous, no one does that. Just in case there are any of you crazies out there gambling on the game, the Ravens are a 6-point favorite because, you know, they never lose in the preseason. Like, for real, they haven't lost in any of their last 23 exhibition games. Back to the important stuff, though. It sounds like Jalen is hoping to play, although he also remained somewhat tight-lipped, only offering the fact that he likes to play football, and any opportunity he gets, he'll take advantage of. I'm curious to see how many of the starters will go, and I feel like it won't be that many, if any at all. Although, yes, you could make the argument that Hurts played in the preseason opener last year, playing one drive against the Jets before coming out and not seeing the field again until the regular season. But that was before we knew Jalen was him. I know some of you were high on him all the way back then, so kudos to you for that. I'm just saying I doubt we see Jalen go given the nature of how these things work and his massive contract. But what do you think? Would you like to see the QB suit up? One guy that 100% won't be there is AJ Brown, since Swole Batman just got a wisdom tooth removed and then went live on Instagram.
Hey, y'all, Smitty's so cold, y'all. Smitty's so cold, y'all.
Hello? Yes.
That boy's so cold, fool.
You said, okay. Alright.
Devin. Alright, guys. I think I gotta go. Yeah. I'm okay, though. I just got my wisdom tooth removed. I'm alright, man. I'm okay. Schmitty. Alright. I gotta go.
Dude, I love AJ, and I'm sure all of us who've had wisdom tooth surgery can attest to, or any surgery for that matter, there's some really weird stuff that you say, which is why Devontae Smith was kind of looking out saying, fam, get off live. Thankfully, he didn't say anything incriminating, however, I highly doubt we'll see him out there. We did get a look at the official depth chart, if you want to call it that, and interesting to see some of the names and where they stack up. I take some of them with a grain of salt. For example, we apparently have 5 running backs competing for the starting job, followed by Kennedy Brooks. Yeah, not really a great sign for the 24-year-old.
Did you see the memo about this?
All right, that's not exactly a surprise, but I'm super interested to see how the carries are split and which backs we end up seeing tomorrow. I'd love to get a look at DeAndre Swift, specifically in the passing game, who was at it again in practice, lining up in the slot, running wheel routes, and even catching passes and screenplays, but maybe the newest Pepsi Zero spokesman, Agent Zero, doesn't play, which I kind of doubt that happens. Either way, it'll also be cool to see Rashaad Penny when he gets on the field, and if it were up to the 27-year-old, he'd for sure be playing tomorrow, saying he's excited for the restart and being able to showcase his new power and speed, thanks to a much better diet and training program. I'm excited too, and despite the fact that we probably won't see that much work, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Penny in on a couple series, because even though Penny's gotten the second most touches on the team during training camp, he has the second fewest touches with the first team offense, which makes me think he may play a good bit with the second or third team guys. What do y'all think though? Do you expect to see Penny and Swift, or do you hope that they sit out, especially given their injury history? The one thing that makes me feel like we might see more of those guys out there is that everyone seems to be chasing Kenny Gainwell now. Yes, I realize the depth chart doesn't technically list any favorites, but that hasn't stopped John McMullen from saying playoff Kenny is the clear #1, and CBS's Jeff Kerr claiming Gainwell has been the best Eagles running back in camp, as well as Elliott Shore-Park sharing that Kenny Gainwell has had the most touches among the RBs in camp by far with 40, and the most carries with the first team offense at 21, with the next closest being Swift with 11. Look, I think Gainwell's great and going to have an awesome year, but I also feel like this is more indicative of the comfortability in the offense than exactly how the usage ends up being. Yet something to definitely keep an eye on. Another one of those battles to watch will be cornerback Josh Jobe, who had a great practice yesterday again, and James Bradberry's definitely been impressed by the second-year player's improvement.
I feel like the game has slowed down for him, so I think he's thinking at a faster pace. So he's always been athletic. He's always been physical. I think that showed last year, but I feel like the mental part of the game is definitely starting to improve for him.
Thursday was pretty obvious to see that improvement, with Jobe recording 3 pass breakups while not allowing any kind of separation, leaving Brandon Lee Gowton to say he's definitely solidifying himself as the top backup cornerback. Okay, clearly nothing's a lock. However, the constant plays from Jobe has easily set him apart, and if he has another good game tomorrow, I think he'll all but lock up that spot as he's continued to make his way up the depth chart. Speaking of moving up the depth chart, believe it or not, undrafted free agent wide receiver Joseph Ngata got some first-team reps yesterday, which I think tells you all you need to know about how the coaching staff views him. I mean, we kind of already knew this from back in May when the Birds gave Ngata the most guaranteed money among all UDFAs. At the same time, it's not always the guy with the largest guaranteed contract who makes the roster. Sorry, Carson Strong. Going back to the first-team reps, though, I should point out that Ngata got in there due to Quez Watkins stepping out for a bit to get looked at by the trainers. He's fine, by the way. Yet again, it does show Ngata has the most confidence from the coaches. Unfortunately, Hurts missed Ngata for a wide open score in the back of the end zone by overthrowing him, and I know I've said it before, but if Ngata goes out there tomorrow and puts up something like 5 catches for 75 yards and a score, I think his job will be secured. Talking about Jalen, though, we've started to see a trend recently of just so-so days, with him going 6 for 10 with 1 touchdown and 0 interceptions. Still not super alarming, but he isn't showing the same type of crisp accuracy we saw earlier in camp. Although it wasn't all bad, connecting on a back shoulder throw to A.J. Brown with Bradberry covering, which according to all the media has been the favorite connection for both of them. And later, Jalen found Goddard, who made an insane grab with Christian Ellis draped all over him in 7-on-7s, which the play was actually impressive enough that it left Ellis wondering, how on God's green earth did you catch that? As Goddard just gave him the MJ shrug, or as I like to call it, the Jalen shrug. Hurts also found Olamide Zaccheaus, who's had a relatively quiet camp but made his presence known yesterday on the first team, making his best play as an Eagle so far with a diving catch on a deep out route from Jalen, where Oz narrowly stayed in bounds as he slid for the breadbasket grab. I feel confident in saying we'll see a Mariota Oz connection against Baltimore, since obviously the two are very familiar with each other from Atlanta, and they once again paired up for some highlights at camp. It's also great that Mariota had another solid practice after having been really shaky to start things out. But ever since the change to Josh Andrews on the second team, Mariota's reportedly been on a different level, constantly finding the open receiver as he marched the offense into the red zone before capping the series off with a zone read keeper across the goal line when a sleight of hand fooled the unblocked defender. Really, the only low light, not even his fault, was a throw to tight end Grant Calcaterra, which should have been a touchdown, but Calcaterra dropped the pass. On the defensive side, Brandon Graham proved he hasn't lost a step, beating rookie Tyler Steen with a quick swim move and nearly coming away with a sack before Mariota dumped off a screen pass to Swift. Josh Sweat also had another impressive day. Okay, that's not really a surprise, is it? But there are curious reporters wanting to know what's the secret for how he's gotten better.
What is your favorite move that you like to use against offensive tackles?
Bro, I can't tell him that.
It isn't the long arm. It isn't the bull rush.
Nope.
That's what you did to me.
Bro, get out of here, bro.
I'm leaving, guys.
Get out of here.
Don't give him any secrets. I'm probably stating the obvious here, but just in case you couldn't tell, that was Jordan Mailata having some fun with Sweat in his post-practice presser, which was really nice to see, especially considering the scuffle between the O-line and the D-line on Wednesday. In case you somehow don't have a clue of what I'm talking about, there was a rep where Landon Dickerson hit Barnett with a blindside block, which one defensive player called it cheap. No clue who that was, at which point Barnett retaliated, shoving Dickerson. Now, ESPN's Tim McManus said Barnett shoved Dickerson to the ground, yet every other reporter just said Barnett shoved Dickerson and barely budged him. This is why we need video access. How do we know what the truth is? Most likely, Dickerson wasn't shoved to the ground, but the more concerning element was that Barnett got flagged for a 15-yard penalty, which unsurprisingly, Sirianni didn't exactly care for.
I love his competitiveness. I love his how tough he is and everything like that. But in a scenario like that, it's you can't react, and it's always, anytime you get a personal foul, you always want to talk about, hey, we can't do that because we gotta fight them within the next play legally, right? And so actually we didn't watch the tape as a team yet. We will tonight, and so that will be my message, is that there's going to be things that, it's a good teaching lesson for everybody. There's going to be things that a guy on another team does that's out of my control that I'm not going to like. I got to you have to be able to play tough, violent, strong, nasty, aggressive, all those different adjectives. You have to do all those things while doing it legally.
Okay, yeah, it's for sure a learning lesson for the team, and the fight isn't really a big deal to me. It's physical and it's football. But at what point does this become more of a big deal with Barnett?
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Personally, from what I've read and heard, the 27-year-old hasn't had a very good camp and hasn't stood out in team drills, with Brandon Lee Gouton saying, "The only time I've noticed him in one-on-ones is when he's been getting shoved into the ground by Jordan Mailata. But overall, I don't think Barnett is deserving of a roster spot and should be traded."
You serious, Clark?
Now, sure, he's had a couple plays that have been mentioned or tweeted, but what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with Brandon? Is it time to move on from Barnett? I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like the retaliation, and it's definitely not a good look, yet I'm hopeful this could be the year, so probably not all the way ready to get rid of him yet. However, all it'll take is a couple more stupid penalties like we've seen in the past, and I'll definitely be on the other side of the fence. My hope is this was just everyone being a little antsy and ready to hit people for real. Much like rookie Nolan Smith, who doesn't plan on holding anything back.
Man, if you ever walked off the field with an injury, anytime you go out there from practice to anything, I'm going balls to the wall. It don't matter preseason, practice, I'm giving it my all just because I remember that feeling in my heart that I got when I couldn't play another snap. Like, most people they think it's a game, but man, if you really live it day in and day out and you walk off that field and knowing, man, I don't know if that's going to be my last snap, well, you'll go harder than you ever been. After my surgery, them boys were shot even in Georgia, day one. I was in there doing curling my little forearm. It was weak, and I just kept curling. Eventually, I just kept working. So I just wanted to show them boys that, I ain't gonna never stop going, and I'm gonna keep going. You're gonna have to kill me to stop me.
I just can't get enough Nolan quotes. The Rook also said that he stays up a lot of nights watching film, especially when he can't sleep, because he never wants to stop tweaking and fine-tuning on how much he can get better. And being the multi-talented weapon he is, was being utilized in a variety of looks at practice on Thursday, yet despite me wanting to see him on the field as much as possible, he needs to be rushing the passer more than anything. I mean, come on, from what we've heard at practice and one-on-ones, he's got to be the most anticipated player to see on the Birds, right? Him and probably Jalen Carter, with the Breadman also playing well in the final practice ahead of the preseason opener and being moved up to the first team, making sure everyone felt his presence early with a pass breakup at the line of scrimmage, knocking down a Jalen Hurts pass before it could leave the tackle box, and generating some pressure on a couple other instances. Once again, I know I keep saying it, but we are starved for footage of the Rooks. How great will it be if JC or Nolan gets a sack tomorrow night? Speaking of the Philly Dogs, Nakobe Dean was back looking good and said he feels 100%, which is definitely good to hear. Because although I believe in Nakobe, I think we all want to see him generate some noise in the preseason, and he could definitely use the reps after sitting out a couple practices due to the ankle. The other question we all have is who will be lined up next to him. Since initially when Myles Jack and Zach Cunningham were signed, Jack was quickly inserted into the first team reps, but the practice yesterday featured mainly Christian Ellis and Nicholas Morrow with Dean. It's just about the same situation for the safety group, with one guaranteed lock of a starter in Reed Blankenship, but then the question surrounding who will play along the second-year man. I didn't see much about yesterday's practice other than Kayvon Wallace making a strong play in coverage, so it wouldn't shock me if we see Kayvon start out and then we get Terrell Edmonds rotating in late along with Sidney Brown and Justin Evans. Either way, as far as positional groups go, I think linebacker and safety are the most intriguing ones I'll be watching. How about you guys though? Let me know in the comments which battles you're most interested in watching and seeing tomorrow. The other area of interest I'm looking forward to is seeing Brian Johnson in his element. Yes, I realize he most likely won't have the full arsenal of weapons at his disposal, but I'm still curious to see how the new coordinator does. I suppose I could say the same thing for Desai too. Reminder that we'll be live streaming the play-by-play for tomorrow's preseason game, so stop on by as we'll be going live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, for the fantasy football fanatics out there, we're going to have a league going this year, so check it out. There's a link in the description. Can you believe it? Actual real live football is back. This has been the Philly Special.